Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Shine and Thrive Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Monica. And oh my gosh, today is the day. I feel so excited to be recording this episode and sharing it, and actually kind of even emotional because I feel like I've been working towards this point for years and years and years. Like literally, me sitting in this chair right now, exactly where I'm at with the reality that I have in my life that I'll be sharing with you is something I've been intentionally working towards. And it's like, that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I've arrived, I've made it. Like maybe some of you, were dreaming to go full time in your photography business. And then that day came and you're like, I'm here, I arrived, I did it. Right. It's those little like wins along our journey of life that just feels so good. And especially if we crafted them intentionally and made them happen for ourselves with a belief in ourselves, right? So, this episode is for literally every type of photographer um, out there. You're totally gonna, I think get inspired by my story, get excited, see what's possible for you. I think those of you that are parents will especially get excited and inspired by this episode because I am a new mom. As of like 3 days ago, Ben is 6 months. So it's been 6 months already. And so yeah, with you seeing the title, like me, I'm shooting 32 weddings this year in 2022, working part-time hours, making my full-time dream income while being a new mom all at the same time. And I've always shared this message that, I mean, in my intro of my podcast, I'm like, it's so possible for you to have it all. It's so possible. And I've been telling myself that for years and having pictures and things on my vision board where I'm like, yes, I can have it all. I can have it all. Right. And it's like right now, this moment is a manifestation for me of that. Like for me to be able to write out this title of this podcast episode and say that, I'm just so excited to share with you the how because I've been so motivated to actually get to this point, not only for myself, not only for Rory and I, not only for my family, my friends, but Ben also, right? I've had my future children in mind and all of this for so long. But on top of that, I have been so motivated to get to this point because I see this issue with overwork and burnout in our whole world, and not just the photography industry, but in general in the whole world. But I'm the closest to the issue within the photography industry. And I've been able to figure out and problem solve and getting through that problem, like solving the problem for myself to basically be a photographer and not be overworked and not be underpaid. Like I used to be an underpaid and overworked photographer. I am no longer that. I like to think of myself now as the liberated photographer. I just feel so free in so many different ways. I have more time freedom, mind freedom, creative freedom, financial freedom, so many of the freedoms. And yeah, so I'm the whole thing. I mean, sorry, this whole time I was motivated by my own life, but I was also motivated to be the example and prove it to people with my own actions, with me actually showing up, walking the talk, right? And proving that it's possible so I can help shift and help evolve other people's lives and businesses for the better as well. And so this is why I'm feeling so emotional right now. It probably doesn't help that I'm on my period. Like I probably might cry during this episode. But yeah, so this episode is for everyone and especially for parents, because hey, it's freaking possible. Um, and so just to start, I think I'm going to give you an overview of kind of where I'm at first, and then I'll kind of like dive in deeper. So yeah, when I say I'm working part-time hours, I have 4 days off a week, and then I'm working 3 days a week. And in general, the few weeks, because I have like some weeks this season where I have double header wedding weekends. And so those weeks I work 4 days and have 3 days off. So those are just an exception. And yeah, I want to be totally straight up and open and tell you exactly how it is and not paint the perfect picture. I want to paint the actual picture for you. So yeah, in general, I have 4 days a week fully off while working 3 days a week. Um, And then when I say I'm shooting 32 weddings this year, that's from the very first week of May. I started my weddings, and my last wedding is going to be the second last week of October. And I'm turning them around in about 3 to 5 weeks' time. So that's my clients get them between 3 to 5 weeks. And normally, if you've been like a OG, long time listener to the podcast, I always like under promise and over deliver to my clients. I always told them, I'm like, your photos will always be ready in 5 weeks. Like your wedding photos will be ready in 5 weeks. And then I always love surprising them and getting them to them through between 3 to 4 weeks. This year, because like like with pregnancy, or like you never know when it's going to happen, and plus there's an influx of weddings because so many moved from the pandemic. I decided that what, sometimes it's okay. Like I love to under promise over deliver in so many areas of my business, like that. I'm so passionate about that. But this year I'm giving myself a little bit more grace in order for me to have that like part-time time and not stress, for me to always over deliver on everything. I sometimes deliver them around 4.5 weeks to 5 weeks time to my clients, and that's basically on time, which they'll be so happy with anyway. And it's still a very fast turnaround time compared to a lot of photographers in the industry as well. So just been going to be super straight up and honest. There is like, that's kind of maybe the only thing that's shifted a little. It's like maybe I'm not over I always fuck that up. Maybe not, I'm not over delivering as much. Maybe not, I'm not like giving them their photos 2 weeks early, but at minimum, like sometimes it just works out in my calendar where they do get them a little early, like between 3 to 4 weeks. But other times, usually it's between 4 to 5 weeks that I'm delivering them this year. And I'm like, you know what? I'm allowed that. I'm a new mom. I'm going to give myself that extra week if I need it, in case I do want to just slow down even more on some weeks. So again, me being super straight up and honest. And then when it comes to my dream income, I'm projected to bring in about $300,000 in revenue in my business this year while working part-time. And the thing that I'm so proud of, and this was a goal of mine, and I'm freaking achieving it, is this was my same revenue in my business last year. I brought in just over $300,000 in revenue last year. But last year I worked full time. And this year I'm working part-time. And it's all because I have built pretty much a smart workflow machine in my business that is allowing me this now. And a lot of it has to do with working smarter instead of harder, and like thinking ahead and building these workflows so that in the future you don't have to work as hard. And yeah, I made that happen. So just wanted to give you an overview of what I mean by part-time hours, what I mean by shooting 32 weddings, and what I mean by my dream income. And yeah, and then having some of the time off that I have with my family. And I'm not saying like there are no challenges along the way, right? Like that life is life. Like even though I'm having 4 days off a week and then working 3 days, yeah, that's amazing, right? I have so much time for like family time, like time to take care of myself and all these things, right? But I'm not saying there are no challenges. Like if you listen to episode 111, it was the chaos episode of I explained like how when everything just went wrong in like 3 weeks, it was just like the most chaotic time I think I've ever experienced in my life. Yeah, like that went wrong, and I learned lessons from there. I still have shadow work I need to do on like things about myself. And or even like for example, this week I'm coming off a double header wedding weekend up north. So I was up north, and I was away from Ben and Roy for the first time overnight. And then I got my period at the same time, and so I'm feeling extra kind of like tired and less energy right now, more emotional, all these things, right? So it's like, okay, that's like a little harder because today like this week can feel a little bit off balance because it was a Saturday Sunday wedding weekend instead of like Friday Saturday. And I'm so used to having our Sundays be like our family days every single Sunday, and then planning our week ahead. And so like because it was like shifted, that feels a little bit different. So this week feels a little off. It's not like freaking perfect, right? But I will say that in general, like my life feels so effortless and at ease, like for real. And there's so many days where I like stop and pinch myself and I'm like, wow, am I actually I'm in the middle of wedding season. And not only am I a wedding photographer with 32 weddings in a season, I'm also an educator. I have the education pillar of my business and I'm also working on that. I'm also podcasting. And it's like I'm like, what? And I have so many days off. I have this day off right now. I'm spending it with Ben. I'm spending it with friends, with family. And I'm just like, pinch me. Holy shit, this is happening. And it's not too good to be true. Like I don't know about you, but I know some people are like, oh, if someone, is saying that or like has that life or whatever, it's too good to be true, or maybe they're just lucky, right? And I personally don't subscribe to the idea of like it's too good to be true. To me, if I hear someone and see someone like living out their dream that way, and maybe it's my dream, I just see that as an example of like, okay, they're doing it. That means it's figure outable. I can figure out a way to make it happen. How do I reverse engineer it? What steps and actions do I need to take in order to make that my reality? So it's so possible. And I'm on a mission to help solve the problem of overwork for my fellow photographers with sharing my story. Um, and I will also share though, right? Because this goal, like the dream life, I really do believe it's always evolving for all of us, right? Like the dream life that I had back in 2017, for example, and 18, when I was like shooting 37 weddings a year and even like 10 of them a year would be like destination weddings. That was my dream life then. I was like, yes, oh my God, so much fun, like travel, do this, that. And maybe in this chapter right now, I don't want to do destination weddings because I just want to be here connecting with like Ben, family and friends, and like taking it like slowing down a little bit, right? So like our dreams always are shifting. And so just to share with you my kind of goal and my dream for next year for 2023, because Rory, oh yeah, so one thing I forgot to say. So pretty much Rory also, so I don't know if you guys know this, but Rory was able to take pat leave this year. So from I think it was the start of May when my wedding season started, 2 months after I gave birth, he took pat leave all the way up until the end of the year. So beginning of January, he's going back to work, but we intentionally designed this like ahead of time. And this is what I mean about like it's not just luck. I intentionally designed it. So years ago, we were like, okay, let's like think of what our lives would want to look like when we start having kids. And we're like, what is our ideal? And I'm like, well, it would be so special for us to have so much more time as a family in the first year with the baby and to transition into parenthood and all of that and not feel so stressed and like exhausted and feel like work has to be a priority and like overwhelm us in that way. And we want to have time and space for being outdoors, being active, working on ourselves, like just spending quality time together. And so, yeah, we decided that when when that time comes, Rory will take full pat leave because he'll be able to, because I have my systems in place in my business where I can work part-time hours and make a full-time income. So I don't have to go and apply for like EI or take mat leave through the government or anything like that. And that would also be like much less in money anyway. I'm like, I don't want to rely on that to dictate the lifestyle I want to live when we first have a kid. Like, I want to have as much abundance as I want, and I want to pretty much be in control of that. So I was like, okay, if I just have my systems in place where I'll be able to work part-time hours, then it'll make sense because I'm only working here and there on days. And then we have so much more family time. And then, yeah, that's the setup that we wanted. And we were okay with that, especially like maybe I would have taken less weddings on because I'm like, that would have been nice just to have a little bit more space. But because of the reschedules from the pandemic, I really wanted to be there for my couples. And like, so I was just like, fine, it's okay. I can totally handle 32 weddings with the systems I have in place. So yeah, so Rory is on pat leave. And also, just so you know, for me to be working part-time hours, like I want you to think of, because some of you might think, oh, so Rory's on pat leave. So that means you have so much support at home. So it's obviously easier for you to run a business, right? At the same time. And of course, oh my goodness, it's incredible the support that I have from him on the days that I have to be shooting or working in office, the 3 days, right? And all the other days, right? Because the other days when we have family time, he's so amazing. He cooks so much. He's such an amazing partner. We have the house clean together, everything. He is obviously so supportive, and it obviously does help make everything less stressful if you feel more at ease, right? But I do want you to know that, let's say Rory was working, right? And I would still be able to work part-time hours. I want you to keep like the workflows that I have in place and the systems I have in place in my business separate from like the pat leave, because I want you to know that the systems I have set up take me a certain amount of hours that I can foresee and calculate within my work week, and that's set. So it's not like, okay, I have to, like, let's say, you know, I'm like, what example can I give? Right. Like, okay, so let's say I have a day alone with Ben, right? And I don't have support. It's just me, myself and Ben. And let's say, I have to work. Or, there's so many moms that are stay-at-home moms and also photographers that have to work and take care of the kids, and like, oh my gosh, right? So let's say I had to do that. So it would take me, of course, it would be like, maybe I would have to find more buckets of time. Like, okay, nap time here, nap time there. And it would be much more tricky to coordinate. But what I want to say is that, for example, I have a 3-hour post-wedding workflow that takes me 3 hours to deliver a wedding after I've shot it. It just takes me 3 hours of my own working time. So what I'm saying is that 3 hours is the same no matter if I'm solo taking care of a baby, if I were a single mom or anything like that, or if I have a partner, or if I have grandma coming over and helping. It's taking me 3 hours, which means that no matter what, I have more time outside of working for myself, for my family, for my friends, for my baby, everything, right? So let's say Roy was at work this year, I would probably ask for more support from the grandparents, or hire not even a part-time caretaker, like a part-time caretaker for the days that I do have to work in office and at a wedding, for example, right? And if that part-time caretaker was here helping on those days, it would still take me the same amount of time of focused work to get things done. And then I would still have all those other extra days off if I wanted. I hope that makes sense, right? I don't want you to mix the two up. Okay. So yeah, so we intentionally designed this, and I want to share with you my goal for next year, because these things always evolve, right? So in 2023, because Rory is going back to work first week of January, I'm actually going to be choosing this to take on less weddings. So about 15 weddings next year, because if he's at work working during the week, then weekends are even more precious and valuable for family and friend time, right? And that way I can still enjoy my shooting weddings and the love of photography, right? For those like 15 random weekend days. And then during the week, I can spend time working on this podcasting, supporting my course students and the education side of my business. And that's kind of what my dream is for next year and what I'm going to focus on. And that will always be shifting and evolving. But the beauty is that I don't have to, you know what? I'm going to get into that later, because I was going to talk to you about how that won't affect my income. I might even hit the same amount of revenue, or I might even make even more in revenue next year, even with less weddings. So I'll talk to you about that later, because I'm like, okay, focus on the notes here, because I had some things wanted to make sure to cover. But yeah, so going back to, I think, like how we intentionally designed this lifestyle, right? I do want to mention something that's been on my vision board for maybe like 7, 8 years. And it just, when I first saw it somewhere on Pinterest or something all those years ago, I was like, oh, that is the life I want. It just hits home. And so I want to read it to you. I took it off my vision board here and I have it in front of me. I'm going to read it to you. And yeah, it's called The Brief Guide. I have no idea why it's called The Brief Guide. Every time I read that, I think of like boxer briefs, and I don't know why. Anyway, here it is. Less TV, more reading. Less shopping, more outdoors. Less clutter, more space. Less rush, more slowness. less consuming, more creating, less junk, more real food, less busy work, more impact, less driving, more walking, less noise, more solitude, less focus on the future, more on the present, less work, more play, less worry, more smiles, breathe. Ugh, it's just light. That's just amazing. D- isn't all the things I mentioned that were like more this, like more play, more walking, more impact, more creating? Doesn't that just like feel so filling? Like just it's just like spoke to me so much. And I just have this on my vision board as a constant reminder of what I actually want. And I mean, oh my God, I'm the first to say probably one of the hardest ones on here for me is less junk, more real food. Because some days I'm like, junk sounds good. I'm like, I want those chips, right? And some days more real food is like, oh yeah, I want that nourishment, right? But yeah, I hope that that was like a little tidbit that inspired you. If you do want to like find this on the interwebs, print it out. It's called the Brief Guide, and write maybe less work, more play. Maybe it'll pop up for you and you can print it out and put it up for yourself. um but yeah, so going back to it, like this is the experience Rory and I wanted to have as first time parents. And I also, one thing I do want to mention is I understand that this may trigger some of you, right? For those of you that are maybe like solo caretakers or primary caretakers, right? I understand that you might be like, oh, it's so easy for you then, or you're so lucky, to have Rory on pat leave. It's so rare, right? Um, and I totally understand that, and it's okay. And I also want to say, like, I don't understand where you are. Like, I can't even imagine where you are. And I know that that's not kind of like where I wanted to necessarily be with, like, okay, Rory going back to work and then me just being at home as of just because I work from home, me just being from home with the baby and then trying to figure out how to work in between, right? So I can totally, like, my heart goes out to you. I understand, and it's okay. And your emotions are so valid. And you are freaking strong. You're so strong. And I am just here to share that this is why I'm sharing what I'm sharing. I'm sharing my story so that you can also see what's possible for you. And straight up, it's so weird. I still feel this like weird guilt right now of like being proud that I have figured out like a healthy life balance for myself, because so many photographers and so many people aren't experiencing it. And I feel so guilty, even just saying right now, like, if you are the primary caretaker and you're trying to work and trying to juggle everything, like, I feel so guilty. But I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not gonna like let guilt does nothing good for anyone, because if my intention for this episode is to literally help shine a light on what's possible for you and how you can custom design your life in the future and how you can get out of overwork and burnout, then you know what, there's nothing to feel guilty about. So just so you know, that is my intention, right? Um, and if I don't talk about it and if I don't share what I'm doing that's working for me, I won't be able to help people get out of the overwork, because no one will know what's possible for them. It's just like that never ending cycle when you don't know what you don't know, right? So I rather just fearlessly share and vulnerably share and help others find a way out of being an underpaid and overworked photographer than to just stay quiet and not be there for people. And also something really beautiful that I recently heard, and I kind of felt like I intuitively knew this somehow in my soul. What's her name? Tara Bach or something. I recently discovered her. Her talks are amazing on Insight Timer. She mentioned that triggers are actually something for us to be grateful for. Um, of course, there's such a variety. It's a sliding scale. Triggers are like a sliding scale. Some are very intense, some are less intense, and they're uncomfortable, right? It's like, how are we supposed to feel grateful for these things that feel uncomfortable in our body, for these emotions, these vibrations, right? But she mentioned how it's simply, triggers are simply a compass within us. They're given to us to help us realize what needs our attention and our healing. And so it's, in a way, it's this gift, and it can feel so painful, it can feel so uncomfortable, but it is a gift from like the universe, or whatever you believe in within your spiritual beliefs, of, hey, a little alarm bell, like this needs healing, like you need to spend time on this, go inward, right? Just like if our head hurts, we have a headache, it's like, oh, something's off, like maybe I'm dehydrated, maybe I was out in the sun for too long, maybe I'm too stressed, right? It's actually a way for us to learn how to connect back to ourselves and our needs. So pay attention to that, right? If you're triggered by what I was saying, maybe it's because you really want it, or you're frustrated that you don't know how to make it happen for yourself, or you feel like life is unfair, right? And again, it's totally okay and valid to feel that way. Those are just your emotions popping up, sharing with you what you really want, right? And also just want to send you a big hug, because yeah, just wanted to send you a big hug. Yeah. Oh, I'm like, can I get through this episode without crying? Because I'm just like, it breaks my heart to see so many people overworked and stressed. And I'm like, oh, so yeah, let's keep chatting, because I'm going to go off on another tangent. Okay. So I do want to mention, like, I mean, tell me if you agree, like the norm in the photography industry for photographers is pretty much to be overworked. I mean, you see it all around. When I was in that space, I saw it. Photographers would always joke around about, I'll see you in the winter, I'll see you in off season, I have no life now, like, and so I'm here to inspire that shift. And the shift that I want to inspire, I want the norm to be like having more spaciousness, more calm, more peace, creativity, harmony. Those are the words that I really would love to be floating around within the industry, and for everybody just to feel kind of that like big weight and pressure lifted off their shoulders. But actually, it's the norm, not even just in our industry, but amongst humanity. Like, when I recently went to the cheese shop, because you know me, I love my cheese. Roy and I and Ben, we walked over there, and then the cheese shop lady, of course, knows me. And she's like, "Oh, look at Ben! Like, he's like, how old is he now?" I'm like, 6 months. And she's like, "So, how are you? How are you doing? How are you feeling?" Right? And I go there to the tea shop every once in a while, and she always asks me. And the first 2 months I said, well, honestly, like, I'm still navigating, I'm still learning how to connect with Ben, this is like a big transition, I'm feeling emotional about like the shift in lifestyle, and like how am I going to navigate it, and like overwhelm and all these things, right? So the first 2 months, I like I mentioned in my birth podcast, are like really, really hard for me. But now with where I'm at, and I'm just like moving through wedding season, I'm like, wow, I have like so much time off, and then get to do what I love with my business, right? I like, actually, because I always love to answer honestly. I don't like small talk, like that. So she's like, so how are you doing? And I'm like, honestly, like I feel like I'm in harmony. I feel like right now, I'm just in a place where everything just feels in harmony. And she was like, her face was in shock. She's like, what? Like, because she's heard me say honest answers before. So she knows I'm not just like, oh, whatever. Yeah, I'm good. Sure, I'm good. Like she was like, harmony. Like, wow, how? Like, she's like, I never hear people say that. Right. And I'm like, this is how out of the norm it is. And this is how much healing we all have to do around this, like, overwork point. Um, yeah, that I just wanted to share that story, because it's everywhere. And even like when I recently on Instagram, I shared my 3-hour post wedding workflow. And in just 2 days, about 200 photographers signed up to see it. And so many of them were like, oh my God, I need this. Oh my God, how, right? And it's because they're also desperate for an answer and a way out. And I feel that so much, because I've also experienced that seven years ago. And if you want my 3-hour post wedding workflow, you can grab it at saramonica.com/workflow. It's a freebie. You can just download it, and you can actually see my step-by-step checklist. Okay, so now just time to share like a little bit more of like my weekly schedule. So I told you I have like 4 days off and 4 days off, 3 working days. So I'll kind of give you a Monday to Sunday vibe, so you can kind of see how it goes. So this is what Rory and I figured out, and it's so amazing when you kind of like can plan ahead of time and be like, okay, this is like the work day, this is the half family day, this is the full family day. It's like, wow, you can actually get so much more done in a way, because you can just have it, when the time is to get something done, and you see that you have so much more space and time for other things. Like, I don't know, it worked so well. So this is what we have. So every Monday is a half work day for me and a half day off. So day off, meaning, and when I say day off here, that means just total free for all. We can do something as a family. We can, like, Rory can have some time to himself. I can have some time to myself, like anything, right? So Monday is a half work day, half day off. Tuesdays are my full work day. So Rory has been this whole day. And then Wednesdays are my full day off. And usually this is where it's Rory's day for him to do like anything he wants, just like a day for Rory. And I hang out with Ben all day. And then Thursday is a half work day and half day off. Fridays are my full day off, and usually it's like a family out of the house day, like we just like go somewhere, explore somewhere. And sometimes, because weddings can fall on Fridays, sometimes I have a wedding on a Friday, but it's very rare. I think I had like 5 or 6 total this whole season on a Friday. And then every Saturday is pretty much a wedding. I only had 2 Saturdays off this whole season. But again, for this year, that was totally okay with us because we have so many other days to hang out together and to hang out with family and friends. And then every Sunday is a full day off or a random wedding, because I have, I think, 3 weddings in total this year on a Sunday. So that's pretty much the schedule. And on those days, like, so if you're like, okay, but like, how are you working part-time hours? I know a lot of you, have been listening to a lot of the recent episodes about like outsourcing and my student success stories and how to figure out your hourly rate and actually make it happen for yourself. By now, you know that it's through outsourcing. And so a lot of the times, all I'm making sure that I'm doing and what I've set up in my business is that I'm working in my zone of genius, and I'm letting the rest of the work go. So my zone of genius is shooting, so documenting wedding days, of course, podcasting, and supporting my outsourcing made easy students and my intuitive storytelling students and crystal clear marketing students. So I'm those are my like main zones of genius. And I also love to show up on Instagram and show behind the scenes, and like that's marketing, but it's also so much fun for me, so I get to do that. And if you're wondering what I'm actually working on when I'm working in office, it's usually quality checking outsourced work, and prepping outsourced work, like so prepping my catalog for my editor or my virtual assistant for culling and stuff like that. And also podcasting, prepping my podcast episodes, like dreaming, even like making goals and dreaming for the future, like those fun things, like marketing, sharing a random post, creating a reel if I want to, like those kinds of things. And in general, if you're wondering what I outsource, and by the way, every single thing I outsource has a smart workflow attached to it, which pretty much is like the most efficient way I've figured out how to make it happen. And every time it's time to outsource the thing, it's kind of like a little machine. Like I press a red button, workflow go, and then it goes. And then my part within that workflow is to quality check the things instead of spending hours upon hours upon hours doing the thing. Like I pay someone else to do it. And so some things I outsource are editing, culling, album design, slideshow creation, Instagram graphics and carousels, admin work, podcast production, blogging. When I'm creating online courses, like all the back end, like videos uploaded there and the worksheets created, all of that. Like, so I get so much help in my business, and like, it's so freeing. And ever since I started letting go, like, the expression, like let go to let in, right? If you let go of the tasks that are, you're procrastinating, you're bored of, are overwhelming you, you will actually let in more of what you want. So more time, more creativity, even, because you're not going to be so burnt out and overworked. You're going to have actually time to be creative on shoots and weddings and show up as your best self, right? And you'll also be able to bring in more revenue. And yeah, you've already learned this from the previous episodes. I'm not going to go too deep into this episode because it's always such a dichotomy of like, what do you mean if I pay for my outsourcing, if I let go of my money, how can I just make more money? It doesn't make sense. But pretty much the more you shoot and the less time you spend behind your computer, the more money you make. But if that's the simplest way I can put it. So as you can see, I mean, it's proof within my like $300,000 in revenue this year, working part-time hours. It's proof that you're able to make more money that way, because I promise you, if I was doing all the work myself, I would not at all be able to take that many weddings my first year as a mom. I would probably be taking like 10, probably. And then that's so much less revenue in my business. So, yeah, if also like, if you're thinking, well, why don't you just do that? Like, if you're thinking, yeah, I'm overworked, but I'll just cut down on bookings instead. Then yeah, let me ask you, do you want to cut down on your income too? Because if you do cut down on your bookings and you spend more time behind your computer, that's exactly what's going to happen. Your income will also go down. So the fastest way, I know like this is something I really want you to understand, like the fastest way for you to cut your working time in half, you can actually cut it down by even more than that, but I'll be like a little easygoing here with that. Like that's not the right word, easygoing. I'll be I don't know the word. See, this is what happens when you're just like off a double header wedding weekend and on your period and just like I'm like, what, where did the word go? Okay, so the fastest way for you to cut your working time in half while simultaneously increasing your income is through outsourcing in your business straight up. And that's because you're going to have so much more time for you to improve your client experience, to improve your price guide, to improve how you onboard people, and to improve the quality of your work, which will create a higher demand for your photography. Like it's all interconnected. So remember how I shared that in 2023, I only want like 15 weddings instead? So this is a different example, like because yes, I'm cutting down the amount of weddings I want, right? And that's because I want a specific lifestyle. But I know I won't be cutting out, like missing out on income or revenue, because now that I have set up my business in a way where I have another pillar in my business, I have multiple income streams. I won't actually lose income over it with my education business. And because I'll be able to work on it during the week when Rory is at work, and then on the weekends we can have time off together. So again, this was all intentional. I knew that eventually when I had kids, I wouldn't want to be away for so many weekends, but I would still want to do my craft. So what my goal has always been, shoot less weddings when I have a family, right? Make more money per wedding. So all these years that I've been outsourcing, I've been able to keep increasing my demand for my photography, my skill at photography, my pricing at the same time, right? So that when I do have 15 weddings in a year, I could be easily making $100,000 in revenue just from those weddings, right? And then on top of that, I have my education business set up where I have 3 online courses that are already created. They're already assets in my business. And I just simply get to work in my zone of genius, podcast, and support my students. Like, that's exactly what I wanted. And that's what I'm going to be doing next year. And so, yeah, just know that it's possible for you to design your business like in a custom way and your life in a custom way. You just have to be willing to let go, to let go of something that you're holding on to, whether it's control, whether it's comfort, your comfort zone, right? Of where you are right now with how your business is going, you having your fingers and everything, right? You have to let go of something to let in a different future, a different reality. And speaking of that, I do want to share a reading of something that, so one of my OMI students, Rachel Bowman, she was a success story on one of the recent episodes. She's a mom of 2. She shared with me a reel on Instagram, and she DM'd me. She's like, this is why I outsource and why I loved your OMI course. Like, this is why. And it hit me so hard in the heart. And it was just like, I have to share this with you guys because it was so beautifully written. So the person who wrote it is at home and on the way on Instagram. And I don't know her name. I know her Instagram handle. So I have it credited here. So it's home and on the way on Instagram. So I'm just going to read it to you. He asked me to watch how fast he can run, how high. Oh my gosh, I'm already choking up. I might cry through this. So, okay, let me start over. He asked me to watch how fast he can run, how high he can jump. Did you see that, Mom? Just a minute, I say. I'm almost done. He asked me to listen while he hums a tune. Just a second, I say. I'll be there soon. He asked me to play as I turn away. I have things to do, and I don't have all day. Oh, hold on a moment, he hears me say. He asked me to look at a picture he drew. I say I will soon, but I have things to do. For his world, as in color, a work of art, an invite he offers into his heart. That there's something unfinished, always something to start. I'll never be done, there'll always be more. The dust will settle on some other endless chore. And then the running, the jumping, the mommy, watch this. Will I remember it only as something I missed? Too busy with crossing things off my list? Let's sit for a while. Let's take some time. Pull me into your world. Let me step out of mine. He soars around, his arms are wings, and I finally learned that we need the same things. In this season and all that it brings, a boy and his mother to seeing each other. Oh my gosh. My heart, like when I read that, it's not even like, first of all, I get emotional because I'm so grateful that I can say to Ben, like, yes, in the moment, right? Like, this is exactly why I chose to create my life and business by design intentionally, so that when these moments are happening in my life, I thought in advance how to prepare for them and how to be able to say yes to them in the now with my full attention. And I get emotional because I think of how I would feel if I couldn't. Like the one, like the if I was her in the reading, and that's what I was saying, and I couldn't, and I didn't have the time, and I felt so stressed and overwhelmed, and I was trying my best, and I was stretching myself out too thin. I'm just like imagining what it would feel like, and my heart would break if I had to say, no, just a minute, just a minute. I have so many things to do. I'm stressed. I'm doing my best. I don't even have time for myself. How am I supposed to have time for like this running to-do list, myself as a mom, my partner, my family, my friends, my son, my kids? Oh my gosh, right? And my heart, it hurts for every human that is going through this right now and relates to that reading and is like, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Because there's been students in OMI that have told me exactly this. Like, they just have to say, sorry, babe, I have to just keep working. I'm almost done. I have to keep working. Mommy has to work. Daddy has to work. And one of my students actually told me that at one point, um, their kid came into the room and just clicked like the button to their computer and just shut it off. And they're just like, I just want to spend time with you, and so my heart hurts so much for those of you going through this. And it's only because I care so much and I want to help you. I want to help you so much to get out of this never ending cycle. Because if you don't change the actions that you are taking, nothing is going to change. It's going to continue going on and on and on. And your life is way too precious for that. You are meant to truly live your life, because the way that we live every single day is the way that we live our lives. Every single day is precious. And I want you to also know that if you are here right now, guilt will not do anything good for you. You are literally exactly where you are meant to be. You are doing your absolute best with where you are at, with the tools you've been given, with what you learned along the way. And you are meant to learn this lesson for a reason, and it's okay. And this pain that you are feeling, again, is a gift. It's a gift because it's telling you what you really want and what really needs shifting. And just know that it's never too late to start working smarter instead of harder. Like if you start now, in 2 or 3 years, you could be exactly where I am or exactly what your 2 or 3 goal is. It's like you don't have to compare yourself to me at all. It's about figuring out what you want. What is you that you want, right? And what is abundant to you, right? And I'm saying 2 or 3 years, even though it took me like so much longer to figure these things out. And I say, yes, you can get there faster because it took me to figure all of this out because I started to learn outsourcing from scratch because no one was teaching about it. No one was sharing. Like I had to learn it all on my own. But now that I have my thought out and perfective smart workflows in my outsourcing made easy program, then you can literally have the fast track. And by the way, doors open again on October 4th. So that's just around the corner. And I know there are so many of you that are like, oh my God, when are the doors open? When are the doors open? And even so many of you have DM'd me and you're like, I totally screwed up. I should have signed up last year because I'm in the same spot I was last year, this year, and I'm burnt out and overworked again. And they're like, as soon as the doors open, I'm signing up because I made a mistake. And so if you don't want to make that mistake again, if you're like that listener, you're like, yep, that was me last year. I should have joined last year, right? Or if you didn't hear about outsourcing made easy last year, but you're like, I need this shift in my life and business. Like there's no more time to waste. Life is too fleeting. Make sure to mark your calendar on October 4th right now because the doors only stay open for a short while and they close again for another whole year so that I can support my OMI students well. And if you've listened this far to this episode, thank you. Thank you so much for like joining me for the ride. This is like a very special episode to me. And I'm just like pouring my heart out and my arms out. Like I'm just stretching my arms out to all the photographers that need my help. And I literally am just here. My hands are outstretched and open here for you. I am so here for you. This is my mission. And if you've listened so far, I also know that this message resonates with you. So I care so deeply about you and your quality of life. And like I said, I'm on a mission to help as many photographers as possible achieve more time freedom in their lives and with themselves and with family and friends, while, like I mentioned, at the same time, increasing their revenue in their business. So, with this said, I have an exciting free live masterclass coming up really soon. It's just around the corner that I only host once a year. It's called The 4 Secrets to Having More Time and Financial Freedom While Avoiding Burnout as a Photographer. And with my total experience, for those of you that are new here, of 11 years as a photographer, 265 weddings, and $1.3 million in revenue later, here's what you're going to learn in the free live masterclass. You're going to learn the major mindset shift that all successful photographers will need to adopt in 2022 and beyond, how to bring in more money by doing more of what you love so that you can say bye to those draining, never-ending freaking to-do lists of tasks that you dread, and hello to focusing on the tasks that bring you the most joy and revenue, and how to enjoy running the business side of things with more ease and less stress so that you no longer have to constantly feel like you're playing catch up. You know, that freaking catch up cue. Oh my God, stressful just thinking about it. And you can be the one running your business instead of it running you towards burnout. You'll also learn the biggest mistake photographers make that stops them from having time freedom and financial freedom, and why you must know this right away to stay happy and inspired in your life and in your career in a sustainable way. So, through implementing these secrets, your life will change in such a big way. And whether you've been stuck on the sidelines waiting for the right time, quote unquote, to figure out how to have more efficient workflows in your business, generate more income, or simply have the lifestyle freedom you've been hoping for, 2022 can be the big ass breakthrough year that you've been waiting for. So I would be so excited, so honored if you would join me to get fully updated on what it takes to build a strong foundation in your business that will make it possible for you to work less hard and take your photography business to true profitability at the same time. So now these spots are limited every single year. And so make sure to go to saramonica.com/masterclass, choose the date and time that works for you, and then we'll get to connect there. And this is a big note that I want to make. So if you're looking at the dates and times, and if you can't make one of the dates, make sure to pick one anyway, because I'll be sending over a limited time replay. But I need to make sure to tell you this. It's so ideal and so beneficial if you show up live because you'll actually be able to connect with me live and ask me questions. So make sure to make it a priority for yourself, for your life, because this is like the one step that can be the catalyst to your life shifting in such a dramatic way. And just like the episode with Rachel Bowman a couple weeks ago, it only took her 10 months as a mom of two to start working less hard and making more money. So yeah, you can like transform your life in a short amount of time, even just by scratching the surface of what you will learn in the masterclass. So make sure to mark your calendar when you do choose the date and time and do your absolute best to show up live. So go to saramonica.com/masterclass and sign up before the dates fill up. And I really, really cannot wait to connect with you in there and answer all your questions. And you'll get to connect with other photographers in there as well that are in the same place as you are. You'll feel less alone, more like community is so powerful. You'll feel more in community. So yeah, this is going to be so much fun. And yeah, as for this episode, again, thank you so much for tuning in, for listening to me freaking crying. Ugh, that was just like, ugh, my voice was like shaking. Um, and I do want to ask you as well, if you have any photographer that comes to mind that you know would really need to hear this message, please, please share this episode with them. Either text it their way, DM it their way, and even better, if you could even just screenshot this episode, tag me on Instagram at Sara Monica Photo, and share this message with photographers. Like you doing so will create a very positive and impactful ripple effect within the industry, that it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to get help as photographers in our business, and that it's not okay to consistently work ourselves into the ground and be exhausted and not have time for ourselves, family, and friends. Like we need to shift the paradigm. We need to shift what the new normal is within the industry. And so if you want to help make a positive impact on in other people's lives and their friends and family, their connections, their mental health, their well-being, all of that, please share this episode, share your biggest takeaway or how important this message is. And I would be so eternally grateful. And I know that the other photographers that discover this episode will also be very grateful. And make sure to tag me so that I can reshare your post to my story as well, and also connect with you and thank you personally. All right. So I will see you in next week's episode. For now, make sure to sign up for that masterclass. And oh yeah, and I'll say the website again. So you're like, oh, what's the masterclass again? saramonica.com/masterclass. And it's Sara, no H, Monica with a K. All right. I will chat with you in next week's episode. Wait, before you go, I just reminded myself of a story that I wanted to tell you, and I didn't because, oh my gosh, I just have so much to always share on this topic. And I feel like I can talk for 10 hours and I always end up missing something. But I'm like, no, no, no. I want to also add this on to this episode. So it's a story of a man who was training extremely hard for like an ultra marathon or an Ironman, either of those. So just imagine someone that has the goal to achieve an Ironman, for example. They're training so hard, trying to beat their own time, their own record. They're so focused, so focused. Everything else kind of melts away. It doesn't matter. They really, really want to do a good job at it. And not only do a good job at it, but they want to come in first. They want to be the best. They want to come in first. So the day comes where this man is finally in the race. He does his running. He does his swimming, then he's biking. He's doing a great job. He's in first place. And then and he's in this like beautiful, obviously it's out in nature. So there's so many beautiful like nature scenes. Out of nowhere, he's biking and this crane swoops down right in front of him and glides over his handlebars. And the crane's kind of like rubber feet glide and over his knuckles and flies away. And the man just like stops suddenly and is like, whoa, I've never experienced that. That's so beautiful in life. Wow, I've never noticed how beautiful this a bird could be, or an experience of that touch going across my knuckles. And wow, look at this nature around me. I didn't even notice that I was racing all along, and I didn't even notice everything around me. It's so beautiful. And he pulled off to the side, parked his bike, walked over to the water, and just sat and took it all in. And then hours and hours and hours later, he gets to the finish line. His friends and family are like, what happened? What happened? You lost. You lost the race. You wanted to come in first. Like you were able to do it. Like you trained so hard. It was in your capability. You could do it. And he's like, I didn't lose the race. I left it. And oh my gosh, when I heard that story and that sentence, I didn't lose the race. I left it. It hit home so much, because you know how what they call the rat race, right? In, let's say, quote unquote corporate world, or like working a job and you're trying to like climb the ladder, right? You're working so hard to that. And it's like, maybe as photographers, we are also in the rat race of basically trying to wear all the hats in our business and taking over control and really believing that no one can do the tasks as well as I can. And this is just how my business has to be, right? Feeling so stuck on it, working so hard, working ourselves to the ground that we're missing all those small, simple moments around us and the abundance that we can have in our lives. And so we choose to stay in it. We choose to stay in it, whether it's subconscious, whether it's conscious, right? But we do have the choice. We can choose to leave it, to leave that cycle, that rat race, and we can have more harmony in our lives. We can have a fulfilling career where we are enjoying our creativity through photography, through having an impact through our photography, and only keeping the tasks that really light us up and get us excited. And then we can also have help there so that we can have a more abundant lifestyle of different experiences, maybe focusing a lot more time on wellness, maybe new hobbies that you didn't have time to experience, connecting time with family and friends and yourself, traveling, all these different things, right? And that's just the beauty of life. Like we get to experience all these different tastes and smells and patterns and everything. And if we're going too fast, right, we just might miss it. So I just want to say it again. You don't have to lose the race. You can leave it on purpose. Yeah. So I hope that that story helped you see it from a different perspective, because I know it did for me. Yeah. We all have a choice. We all can continue to keep going on how we keep going on, or we can take a new path, a new direction. And actually, one more thing I do really want to share, because I think it's a really powerful metaphor, because doing something new in your business is always scary. And I know I was terrified when I first started to outsource or even let go of that control, or like, I don't know how to train someone. How do I give like feedback? All of these things, right? It can be scary, right? So if you think of like a hill in the wintertime and you want to go sledding, right? And you go to this hill very often, and there's one sled path that's always like shiny, and a lot of people always sled down it, and you're always sledding down that one path. And so it's easy. You jump on your little sled and you're like, I know this. I've done this many times before. Boom, I'm going to go down, and you slide down and you do it, right? And I want you to think of that path in the snow as like a neural pathway in your brain. It's a habit that's been created, and it's become your comfort zone because you just kind of like know how to do it. It's habitual, right? But then when you're standing, you want to do your next run, your next sled run, and you're standing on top of the hill, and then you notice to your left, you're like, ooh, but that path looks more exciting and fun, and it's longer, and it looks like it has a bunch of different experiences. Like maybe I'll go up and down and then left a little bit and then end up at the bottom by those beautiful trees. Like I want to experience that. But then you see that there's so much snow piled up, and you're like, oh, but like it's going to take so much effort and work to like get through that. Is it worth it? I don't know. So then you try to go once and you have to go slow through the snow. Then you try again and it's a little bit faster because there's more of a path created. And you go maybe a fourth time. And then finally, the fifth time, you go down fast and it's fun and you get to experience something new and you're less scared or it's less uncomfortable. And that, so I want you to think of that as you forming a new neural pathway in your brain of a new habit. So I want you to think of this as you beginning to outsource in your business, as anything in life, just like when you first started learning how to shoot your camera on manual, right? It was uncomfortable. You're like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. It's so daunting. But then you through repetition took action and created a new neural pathway in your brain that now becomes like a habit, like driving a car. So that's how I want you to think of outsourcing. It's so possible for you to do and for you to get that life that you want, for you to create that new habit, new way of thinking, new perspective. It's all a matter of just retraining your brain and creating new neural pathways. And I am here to help you achieve that, because if I can do it, so can you. And if my fellow OMI students can do it, so can you as well. So again, this is your invitation to get registered, sign up for the masterclass. There are limited spots available. Let me show you how. So go to saramonica.com/masterclass, sign up, get your spot, show up live, ask me questions, and you will learn how to reprogram those neural pathways in your mind. I cannot wait to connect with you in there, and have an amazing rest of your day. Bye. Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sara Monica Photo. That's Sara no H, Monica with a K, photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.